I think there's two things happening with the results yesterday. The first is that when you look at the Walmart results, the underlying health of the consumer remains strong and remains intact. Because what really caused the stock to fall is the deflation that we're seeing in pharmacy sales, and that caused the comp to be weaker than expected and 3Q guidance. That headwind remains in place for the back half of the year. So that is going to deflate Walmart's comp as we move into the back half. When we think about the consumer and how the consumer is shopping, traffic was up. In fact, traffic was up at both Walmart and at Target. So those are encouraging signs that the consumer is still going out and spending. And when you look at the e-commerce sales at Walmart, over 20%, it shows you the strength of the spending. Now, does the consumer care about value? Absolutely. Both retailers are slashing prices, they're providing more value, and we think that will continue to draw customers to their brands over others.
But Poonam, in the longer term, how have we seen the tariff picture and a lot of the, I don't want to call it a trade war, but the butting of heads between the President Trump and the Chinese administration on tariffs, and has that affected either of these retailers? I know Walmart used to get a significant amount of its stock from China.
Yeah, so when you look at Walmart specifically, more than half of Walmart's business is grocery. So much of that stuff is less impacted from what comes from China. But when you look at the discretionary side of the business, apparel, home, toys, etc., there is an impact. And yes, tariffs have raised costs for retailers like Walmart and Target and even others across the US because most of what we consume is brought in from abroad, especially on the discretionary side. Now, that said, I think the tariff situation was worse off last year when we were talking about 100+% tariffs from China. From that standpoint, we've come down a lot. And I think the new tariffs that are in discussion are calling for a 10 to 15% increase. Those are manageable. So I think we're at a place where retailers now know how to mitigate some of this tariff increase through supplier negotiations, through internal efficiencies. And yes, they're passing some prices on to the consumer, but Walmart's and Amazon's are trying to hold back for as long as they can before they can pass those on.
The tariff refunds have been a big theme for company earnings this last quarter and will probably continue to be. But I wonder for how much longer, because it feels like it's a one-time boost, but you can't count on it going forward, can you?
Absolutely. It is a one-time boost for sure. So it helped in 2Q results for many retailers across the board, including Walmart. I think the boost gets smaller as we move through the back half for most retailers. The bulk was realized in the second quarter itself, but I wouldn't expect this refund to continue into 2027. I think we will see some in 3Q, but once they've essentially received or gotten that refund back, that's it. The new tariffs in place don't qualify for a refund.
So, Poonam, talk to us a little bit about how consumers have been shifting their patterns of purchases. When I look at the retail sales report at the macro level, it often, they have non-store retailers, and it's still relatively small compared to all the times that I click online to buy something. It seems like it's, a lot more that I seem to purchase online, but it's only 20-ish% of total retail sales comes from online. You have a really great chart here in your chart pack from about 10 days ago, talking about like active users on different apps and stuff like that to buy. So have these trend toward online slowed down at all, or how have any of those trends been changing?
Sure. So when you look at those numbers that you're talking about in the retail sales report, the one thing I'd keep in mind is when you're looking at that non-store retail line, you're not looking at e-commerce sales from the brick and mortar businesses themselves. So a big piece of the equation is missing. By our estimate and our e-commerce model, retail online sales as a percent of total retail sales are closer to over 25% today. And we think they're edging to 31% of total retail in the next 3 to 4 years. So the opportunity for retail sales to grow online is still very vast and it's still very large. In fact, when you look at some of the numbers, whether it's from Amazon or whether it's from even Walmart, you're seeing plus 20% gains in e-commerce. So I think the shift to e-commerce is still very much real. It's happening. It's outpacing store growth. That
Right.
said, there are some categories that do better online than others. For example, food is still, underpenetrated online. And while we're seeing it increase slightly, there's a long runway to go on the grocery side of the business.
Yeah, I think about Walmart Plus and how much money Walmart has put into developing its e-commerce platform and how it's paid off tremendously insofar as the stock return has done much better, and the company is trying to call itself a bit of a tech company in many ways. What has Target's efforts been like when it comes to e-commerce?
So Target's also making an e-commerce push, and they have Target. They have the shipping with Target also as part of their membership and their Target Circle. I would say that the two are a little different when you look at how big they are in e-commerce. Walmart scaled up quite nicely, right? Walmart's today about $150 billion when you look at its e-commerce sales. Target's not there yet, and one of the big reasons that you're seeing such a differentiation between the two is much of Walmart's scale in e-commerce comes from food and grocery. So
Right.
when you think about Walmart Plus, it's I need avocados today, so I'm going to get them shipped. I need spinach. I need this. It's easy. Whereas Target, the mix of Target's business is 20% grocery and 80% discretionary, and Walmart's 50% grocery or more. So there's a clear differentiator in how big each of those can get based on the verticals that they compete in.